Most developers treat Docker networking like a black box. You run your containers, things mostly work, and you never really look inside. Each container just sits there, a little island of its own, until the day your containers can't reach each other. The web can't find the database, the API times out, and nothing you try seems to connect them. You're guessing which bridge or overlay driver you're supposed to use, the connections stay broken, and production goes down. It's one of the most frustrating walls in all of Docker. So today, we stop guessing. We're solving the whole networking puzzle with clear visuals and real-world scenarios that make the architecture click instantly. By the end, you'll know exactly which mode to reach for and why. Let's open the box. Start with the thing that confuses everyone, the illusion of isolation. Every container is born a lonely island. Before we build a single bridge, we have to understand why Docker deliberately walls each one off in the first place. Get this, and every driver after it makes sense. So why can't containers just talk by default? Let's build it up one step at a time. Here's a single container the instant Docker starts it. The first thing Docker does is hand it its very own network namespace, a completely private network stack. Its own IP address, its own network interfaces, and its own routing table. A little walled-off world all to itself. And that wall faces the host machine too. The container is fenced off from the host itself, a deliberate security boundary, so a crash or a hostile process inside can't reach out and touch your host's network, which means your laptop, out here on the network, has no way in. There's no open door, no published port, the request just bounces off the wall. And it's not just outsiders. Spin up a second container, and these two sitting side by side can't even find each other. Each is sealed in its own namespace, blind to the other. So here's the mental model for the whole video. Isolation is the safe default, and connection is the thing you opt into. Every networking mode we're about to cover is just a different way of opting in. Let's make that concrete. Picture a single container as its own island, floating in a sea, and that sea is the host machine it runs on. Start a second container and you get a second island. The same sea, the same host, but a stretch of open water between them. Out past the sea is the mainland, and that's where you sit your laptop, issuing commands from dry land off to the side of it all. And beyond you, the wider internet, everything your containers might eventually want to reach or be reached by. Here's the catch: right now there are no bridges anywhere. The islands can't reach you, they can't reach the internet, and they can't even reach each other. Every one of them is cut off. So the whole game from here is building the right bridge for the situation. Same host means same sea, and islands need a bridge to trade anything at all. Let's build the first one. One thing to plant up front, there is no single Docker network. There's a driver for each situation, and picking the wrong one is exactly why things break. Here's the whole map, 5 ways off the island. First, none, a fully sealed island with no networking at all, for jobs that should never touch a network. Second, bridge, the default. A local harbor connecting all the islands on a single host so containers on one machine can talk. This is the one you use almost every day. Third, host, where you skip the island entirely and live directly on the mainland, trading isolation for raw speed. Fourth, overlay, a tunnel that joins separate seas across many different servers, so containers on different machines act like they're side by side. And fifth, Macvlan, which gives an island its very own address on your real, physical network, so the rest of your LAN treats it like a genuine machine. One island, 5 kinds of bridge. We'll build them up simplest first, so each one solves a problem the last one couldn't, starting with the default. Part 1, the bridge network. The first bridge off the island is called Docker 0. It's the default network, and it's a virtual switch that every container quietly plugs into the moment it starts. Let's see how it works. When you install Docker, it creates a virtual switch on your host called Docker 0. Think of it as a little network switch living inside your machine, the concierge at the harbor. Every container on the default network plugs into that switch and gets a private IP from its range. Something like 172.17.0.2, 172.17.0.3, and so on. Because they share one switch, they can all reach each other on that private subnet. That's your first bridge. And when a container needs the outside world, Docker 0 does network address translation, NAT, forwarding its traffic out through the host's connection. So packets get out, and replies find their way back. If that sounds familiar, it's exactly like the Wi-Fi router in your home. Private IP addresses for everything inside, all talking on the local network, and one shared, translated path out to the internet. That's the bridge network in one picture. But there's a catch that bites almost everyone. Say your database container boots and gets 172.17.0.3. You point your app at that address, and it works. Then the database restarts, a crash, a redeploy, anything. It comes back up, and Docker 0 hands it a different address, maybe 172.17.0.9. That IP was never yours to keep. That internal IP is a lease from Docker 0's pool, not a fixed address. Hard-code it anywhere, and your app breaks on the very next restart. So we clearly need a better way to reach a container than chasing a number that keeps moving, and we need a way for your laptop to reach in at all. That's next. The bridge is up and containers can talk to each other. But two problems remain. How does the outside world get in, and how do containers find each other without those moving IP addresses? Port mapping opens the gate from outside. Internal DNS gives every island a stable name. Let's take them one at a time. First, getting in from outside. Your web container is happily listening on port 80, but on that private 172 address that your laptop's browser can't even see. So how does a request from your machine ever reach it? You punch one deliberate hole in the wall. With -p 8080:80, you publish port 8080 on the host and wire it to port 80 inside the container. Now anything hitting the host on 8080 gets forwarded straight in. So your browser hits localhost :8080 on the host. Docker forwards it across the bridge to the container's port 80, and the response comes back the same way. One clean, intentional doorway from the outside world into a private network. That's port mapping. Your laptop can't see the container's internal IP, so you publish a host port that forwards straight in. You decide exactly which doors are open, nothing else is exposed. Now the second problem, containers finding each other. We saw IPs change on every restart, so hard-coding them is out. What we want is to call a container by a name that never changes. And that's exactly what Docker gives you. When you create your own user-defined bridge network and attach containers to it, Docker runs a small internal DNS server. Your web container can simply connect to the hostname DB. Docker's DNS resolves that name to whatever IP the database has right now. It restarts, gets a new address, doesn't matter. The name always points at the live container. That internal DNS is your harbor master. You ask for an island by name, and he knows exactly where it is today. One critical gotcha, and it trips up beginners constantly. The built-in default bridge does not give you name resolution. You only get DNS on a user-defined network you create yourself. So the rule is simple, always create your own network. Then you get names for free, and you never touch a container IP again. Everything so far lives on one host, one C, but real production doesn't fit on one machine. One host is easy. Now we spread across many. This is the overlay network, one virtual network stretched over a whole fleet of separate servers, so containers scattered across machines behave like they're on the same LAN. Here's the problem it solves. You've got host A running your web and cache containers, and host B running your API and database. Two different physical machines, two separate Cs. Their containers are on totally different private networks, and have no idea the others exist. The overlay driver builds a tunnel between the hosts using a technique called VXLAN. When a container on host A sends a packet to a container on host B, Docker wraps that packet inside a normal network packet, encapsulates it, ships it across the real network between the machines, and unwraps it on the other side. The magic is that all 4 containers now share one virtual subnet, say 10.0.0.0/24, even though they live on different physical servers. To your applications, they look like neighbors plugged into the very same switch. So VXLAN wraps each container's traffic and tunnels it across the physical network, and containers on different servers act like neighbors on one LAN. Same names, same subnet, wherever they actually run. That's how you scale past a single machine. Let's make it real. Imagine a front end running in your own private data center, and the database it depends on running up in AWS. 2 completely different locations on opposite ends of the internet. An overlay network stretches an encrypted tunnel between them, right across the public internet. The traffic between your front end and that cloud database rides through it, wrapped and protected the whole way. And from the front end's point of view, nothing exotic is happening. It just connects to a container called database by name, exactly like on one machine. It has no idea that name resolves to a box in another company's cloud. This is precisely what Docker Swarm and Kubernetes are built on. Once you have an overlay, the physical location of a container stops mattering, and that's what makes real, large-scale clustering possible. Which leads us to the last stop. What happens when you want to remove Docker's networking overhead entirely? Part 4, Maximum Performance. Everything so far routes traffic through Docker's virtual switch, and sometimes that bridge is overhead you simply can't afford. Host and Macvlan remove the middleman entirely. They let a container stand directly on the real network. 2 modes, 2 very different reasons to use them. First, host mode. Here Docker skips the whole game, no Docker 0, no separate network namespace, no port mapping. The container shares the host's network stack directly. There's no island at all. The container is standing on the mainland. Because it's on the host stack, the container's port 80 is literally the host's port 80. No mapping, no translation, no bridge hop in the middle. A request to the host on port 80 lands in the container instantly. The upside is raw speed. With no bridge and no NAT in the path, there's essentially 0 networking overhead, the fastest option Docker has. The downside is you give up isolation, and because the container grabs host ports directly, 2 containers wanting the same port will collide. So host mode means no island at all. You build straight on the mainland. Reach for it when you have a single, performance-critical service, and you want every last bit of network throughput, and you're willing to trade away isolation to get it. Macvlan solves a different problem. Sometimes you need a container to look like a real, physical machine sitting on your office or data center network, not something hiding behind the host's IP. So it attaches straight to your LAN router. Macvlan gives each container its very own MAC address and its own IP directly on your physical LAN. Container A shows up as 192.168.1.50 with a unique hardware address, just like a real device plugged into the switch. Container B does the same, .51, its own MAC. It isn't sharing the host's identity or hiding behind a bridge. It's a first-class citizen on the network in its own right. Add a third at .52, and here's the key. To your router and everything else on the network, these aren't containers at all, they're separate physical machines, each with its own street address. So your network sees them as genuine devices. That's exactly what you need for legacy applications that expect their own IP, or for network appliances and monitoring tools that must sit directly on the physical LAN. Macvlan makes a container a true resident of your network. Let's turn all of that into a decision you can actually make. Choose none when a container should have no networking at all, a batch job that only crunches data, or a lockdown security sandbox. Total isolation, on purpose. Choose bridge, the default for the everyday case. Several containers on a single host talking over private IPs. That single choice covers the vast majority of local development and single-host applications. When in doubt, this is the answer. Choose host when you need raw throughput from one service, and you're genuinely fine giving up isolation and port flexibility to get it. It's the specialist's tool for latency-critical work. Choose overlay the moment you've outgrown a single machine. Docker Swarm, Kubernetes, or anything spanning multiple servers or clouds. And you want them all sharing one virtual network by name. And choose Macvlan when a container has to appear as a real device on your physical LAN, with its own MAC and IP, legacy apps and network appliances that demand a first-class spot on the network. Put it all together, and the rule is simple. Default to bridge, and reach for the others only when the job genuinely demands it. That one habit prevents the great majority of Docker networking pain. Let's lock the whole journey into one picture. We started with an isolated island, a single container that, by default, can't talk to anything at all. The bridge network, Docker 0, gave it a first bridge, private IPS, and a way to reach other containers and the internet on one host. Port mapping opened a door from the outside world, and internal DNS let containers find each other by name instead of by a moving number. Overlay networks stretched that same model across many servers and clouds, using VXLAN tunnels to make distant containers feel local. And host and Macvlan cut out the middleman entirely, for raw speed on the mainland or a real, first-class identity on your physical LAN. So here's the whole thing on one card. A container is isolated by default. Bridge connects it on a single host. Ports and DNS let you reach in and call things by name. Names always beat IPs. Overlay scales that across many hosts. And host and Macvlan are your direct, raw speed options. 5 modes, one clean spectrum from fully sealed to fully exposed. Pause and screenshot this one. It's the whole video on a single frame. So there's the whole of Docker networking. Isolated by default, a bridge for one host, ports and DNS so services can be reached and found, overlay to span many servers, and host and Macvlan when you need raw speed or a real network identity. It was never a black box. It's just 5 bridges off an island. But here's where it starts to strain. Wiring overlay networks by hand is fine for 10 containers. Push it to hundreds of containers across dozens of nodes, and something has to assign every IP, heal broken tunnels, and load balance requests by name automatically. Who does all that? That's the whole next video. Kubernetes networking, this exact same model, fully automated. Go watch it next, and tell me in the comments which Docker mode bit you first. And if this finally turned Docker networking from a black box into something you can actually reason about, the island, the bridge, the tunnel, and the mainland. Hit like and subscribe for more Docker, Kubernetes, and system design deep dives. I'll see you at the next bridge.